Okay, this one's from Robert Flynn. He says, I'm ridiculously excited for The Mandalorian. Did you see the images online showing George Lucas visited the set and pictures of George, Jon Favreau, and Dave Filoni? Do you think George is getting involved in Star Wars again?
No, I don't think George is getting involved in Star Wars again. But if you're a Star Wars fan from any generation, you can't help but be excited by this image. Let's take a look at this. Bring this up here. This was from Jon Favreau's Instagram account. Jon Favreau put up this picture. It's a picture of him, George Lucas, Dave Filoni, and of course himself, Jon Favreau, standing there on set. And I believe Jon Favreau said this was a birthday surprise. Apparently George Lucas dropped in on set to surprise him. Now, of course, that's great. And of course it stirs the pot and gets everybody wondering, is George getting involved? Nah, he's not getting involved. I think he was just there to lend a lot of support. I think he was there to kind of just keep an eye on things. Because when you're George Lucas, who's going to say, no, you can't come on set? If you're George Lucas and you can drive to any set in Hollywood, particularly any set in the world that has the word Star Wars written on it, ain't nobody's going to turn you away. It doesn't matter, black and white, whatever. You can show up there. You can be wearing your flannel lumberjack shirt. You're all good. They're going to let you in no matter what. So you go on there and you get George Lucas standing there, Jon Favreau, and Dave Filoni. Now, we've known for a while that Dave Filoni was going to be directing the first 1 or 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. For those of you who don't know who Dave Filoni is, Dave Filoni was the showrunner, lead producer for the animated series The Clone Wars, and for Rebels, that a lot of people like. I'm a big fan of Rebels myself. But it does remind us again that there is an impressive looking lineup of directors coming to us for this. Obviously, Dave Filoni off the top. We got Taika Waititi from Thor Ragnarok and What We Do in the Shadows. He's going to be directing 1 or 2 episodes. Rick Famuyiwa, who of course directed Dope, and he was supposed to direct Flash until he left the Flash movie over creative differences. And then of course, Ron Howard's daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, that we most know from her Jurassic World movies, and she was Gwen Stacy in that one Spider-Man film. And she directed this little short film called Soulmates that got a lot of attention around Hollywood. And of course, she's going to be directing 1 or 2 episodes as well. And that got a lot of people speculating. We talked about this on the show the other day is, I wonder if Ron Howard taking over and saving Solo, that a part of his agreeing to do that was, you got to let my daughter direct something Star Wars. Like, I don't want to be pessimistic. I'm not trying to look at this from a pessimism point of view, but you can't blame people for like, oh, Ron Howard jumps in last second to save Solo, and all of a sudden his daughter gets a directing gig on Star Wars. I mean, probably nothing, but you can't, blame people for being just a little bit suspicious about it. But again, let's get back to the original question. Could a picture like this indicate to us that a George Lucas is coming back in? He's getting back into the fold? No, I don't think so. From what my understanding was, it was just Kathleen Kennedy just invited him to come down because she knew, I think Favreau wanted a visit from George Lucas, and I think Lucas just decided, yeah, and he was going to accommodate it and come on down. But look, I am so excited for this Mandalorian show. I am so excited for it for this main reason. You guys know that my biggest complaint about the Star Wars universe is that they have continuously shrunk it more and more and more and more. I've given this analogy before, but let me say it again. If you want to know whether you live in a big town or a small town, simple. Every time you walk outside your door and go walking down your street, how often do you bump into people you already know? If every time you step outside your door and walk up your street, every single time you bump into people you know, you're probably living in a pretty small town. If you go out for a walk one day and only maybe 1 out of every 3 days you see somebody you recognize, that's probably a good indication that you live in a pretty big town. In the town of Star Wars, every time it feels like, whether it's a new project or a new project they're talking about, that we step outside the door, we're seeing Yoda, or we're seeing young Han Solo, or people want to talk about a young Jabba the Hutt, or let's get an Emperor Palpatine movie, or let's see, Luke again, let's see Han Solo again. Hey, let's do a young Chewbacca. No, let's do a young this or a young everything. I feel like every time we step through the doors into the Star Wars universe, we're bumping into people we know every single time, which to me means you're shrinking it more and more and more. The reason I love the idea of The Mandalorian is because we're exploring a time period we never have. It's being led by a character we've never met in a part of the galaxy we've never really spent time in. They are expanding the universe, and that is exciting to me. And it's also exciting to me that Dave Filoni, that a lot of people have wanted to direct a Star Wars movie. I've always said he's got no experience directing live action. Give him something to cut his teeth on. This is it. This is the perfect thing for Dave Filoni to cut his teeth on directing live action. A Star Wars episodic show, direct a couple of episodes, cut his teeth on that, and then I think Dave Filoni will be in a much better position to perhaps one day actually direct a live action Star Wars film, which I think will get a lot of people excited. So there's a whole bunch of stuff and emotions and topics that just these simple little Instagram pictures bring up, but it is a lot to get a Star Wars fan excited, so I love seeing that stuff.